त्रशं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यश्छन्दसा वृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया अस्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासं शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरि विश्रुवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिः पृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव श्रमितमस्मि द्रविणगुंसवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यां मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत्। अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्मयेधि वेदस्य मानि ईस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधितेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ भद्रं नो अपि वातयमनः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तगुंहदेवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Narayanam Padma Bhuvam Vasishtam Shaktim Cha Tatputra Parasharam Cha Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindra Mathasya Shishyam Shri Shankaracharya Mathasya Padmapadam Cha Hastamalakam Cha Shishyam Tam Totakam Vartikakaramanyaan Asmat Gurun Santato Manatosmi Om Vishwam Darpana Dishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyanatmani Mayaya Bahirivotbhutam Yatha Nidraya Yat Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Bijasyantarivānkuro Jagadidam Prang Nirvikalpam Punaha Maya Kalpita Deshakala Kalana Vaichitrya Chitri Kritam Maya Viva Vijrambhayatyapi Maha Yogi Vayasvechaya Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Yasyaiva Sphuranam Sadatmakam Asatkalparthakam Bhasate Sakshat Tattvamasiti Veda Vachasa Yo Bodhayatyashritan Yat Sakshat Karanad Bhavenna Punaravrittirbhavambho Nidhau Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Nana Chidraghatodharastita Mahadipa Prabhabhaswaram Jnanam Yasya Tu Chakshuradhikarana Dvara Bahispandate Janamiti Tameva Bhantamanubhatye Tat Samastam Jagat Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Deham pranamapindriyanapi chalam buddhim cha shunyam viduhu Stri balanda jadopamastwamiti Bhranta bhrisham vadinaha Maya shakti vilasa kalpitamaha Vyamoha samharine Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Athato Brahma Jigyasa Janmadyasya Yataha So in the last class we concluded the second sutra Janmadyasya Yataha. So just a very quick recap of the conclusion before we go to the next one. So what we said was that the second sutra is considered by some of the scholars to be the most important one in the entire Brahma Sutra, 555 verses. And the reason for that is that it establishes the Lakshanam of Brahman. Because as you know, Brahman, this whole sutra is about Atma, Brahman, the reality of all of us, or the reality of us, the one same reality. And so the entire sutra is about Brahman. And the interesting thing is that the nature of the sutras is that you use the minimum number of words to precisely define what you are trying to do. So here, interestingly, the word Brahman only occurs once in the entire 555 sutras. And so that is in the very first sutra, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. And so after that, there is the word Brahman doesn't come at all. And the reason is because once you have defined a noun, now you have to just do it as a pronoun. You can say, I met John yesterday. And then you can talk about um, the reason he came to me. You don't say the reason John came to me again. It's the same John. And so you can just use pronouns for doing that to indicate some action. So similarly here also in all the sutras, the word Brahman doesn't occur until except for the first sutra. So the second sutra is considered to be very important in the entire Brahma Sutra because it establishes the lakshana of Brahma. And so that is what it was. As you know, the first four sutras, the first one being Athato Brahma Jigyasa, second one is Janmadhyasya Yataha, the third one, which we will now start very shortly, is Shastra Yonitvat, and the fourth one is Tattu Samanvayat. These are the four sutras that establish the basic subject matter of the entire Brahma Sutra. And each one of them has only one adhikarana. We know this by now. You should know this by now. Adhikarana means one topic. The afterwards you have multiple sutras that may share an adhikarana. Each adhikarana may have 4 or 5 more than that sutra. But the first four are so important that they each establish a separate adhikarana. So the first adhikarana was Jigyasa adhikarana. And so we'll repeat the meaning of that at some other time. Then the second one is Janmadi adhikarana. Means the Lakshana Vakya, the Lakshana of it is the Janmadi, the one who is responsible for the so-called creation. So-called creation means that it is a manifestation. So that is the responsibility. So anyway, the summarize of the second one, which is an important sutra, is that the following. There are 5 things that we've talked about that establish what the second sutra is trying to convey. And so here, the main thing that the second sutra is conveying is that Brahman is indeed the Karana of the entire Jagat. Brahman is the Karana of the entire Jagat. So, in fact, let me summarize these 5 points that we did last week. So I won't spend much time, just quickly summary. And then I want to just spend a couple of minutes on the importance of why Brahman is the cause of the Jagat. Why not? What is so crucial about it? What does that do for me? Ultimately, what we have to do is, all this vidya is, what does it do for me? What do I need to do? Why is that important for me? So I'll spend a couple of minutes on doing that. But let me just quickly summarize the 5 points. So one is negating all of the schools of thought that say that Brahman is not the Jagat Karanam, it is something else. So there are different reasons given. One of them is Pradhanam in Sankhya. Or you can say Paramanus, all these particles. This is exactly what the whole science is doing, is they have to figure out. They feel they can figure it out because if they can understand how the particles are exploding, expanding, how they make into what is the core particle. If they can figure that out, and they feel they can figure it out, oh sure, we're making progress, and it's a matter of time, and we are going to see exactly how the Big Bang happened. And so really the basic cause is all these atoms coming together into molecules and so on and so forth. So the Jagat Karanam is all the molecules, atoms, they say. Then Sankhya say, no, Prakriti is the Pradhana Karana. Pradhana, which is Prakriti. It's the nature. Then the Karma Kandin say, Karma is the Pradhana Karana. If you can revise it, Ishvara has nothing to do with this. It is the individual karma that can be refined, and then that is the cause of the. So everybody says that it is not the consciousness, the basic consciousness, which is the cause of it. Everything else is the cause of it. So the first reason is, we say no. That is not right. Brahman is the cause. And so I'll spend some couple of minutes doing that, why it is important for us. This is the first one. The second one was, out of the general idea that all the other schools of thought called darshanas are mistaken. One in particular that looks very much like Vedanta, which is called Sankhya, the Sankhya philosophy, the Sankhya darshanam. Not Sankhya, the Vidya as talked about in the Bhagavad Gita, Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga means Vidya Yoga. It's not the same as the Sankhya school of thought. That school of thought is a separate one altogether. And why that is singled out is because they cause the most confusion, saying we are both the same. Purusha and Prakriti, and it's just that Prakriti and Purusha are two separate things, and then once that gets resolved, everything will be okay. So we say no, that's not right. They are not two separate things, they are one and the same. One expresses it that the other. Big difference. But they confuse matters by saying, no, we're pretty much the same. So the second reason is that Sankhya is pointed out as clearly flawed in their assumptions. This is the second one. The third reason is for the second sutra, I'm talking about the 5 reasons for the second sutra, is that this proof that Brahman is the cause of the Jagat, cause of all the issues that we see in our life. That's what Jagat is consistently talked about in all the Vedanta Shastra. So it's not as though it is something that has to be discovered by a lot of analysis. Hey, it's there in all of the Upanishads. This fact is actually going to be more detailed out in the 4th sutra, Tattu Samanvayat. So the Samanvaya means consistency. There is no ifs and buts and so on. We're not talking about philosophy, we're talking about knowledge. So knowledge means that once you understand that this is really, you may have some doubt initially whether this is from a distance, whether this is a pear or some perhaps an apple or a pear. But once you feel it and once you see it, then it's an apple. It's not a pear. That's Vidya. So Samanvaya. So that is the third reason for it. Fourth reason is that we do say, occasionally we say Prakriti is the cause, not Brahman. In our Shastra also, sometimes it is said Prakriti is the cause. And so this point is brought up by all the Sankhyas and saying, you are saying the same thing. So what's the big difference? So there we say no. We are not saying the same thing because in our way of looking at it, Prakriti is just a Maya Shakti, which is also another, that is the Tatastha Lakshana of Ishvara. It's not a separate thing. It is really one and the same. So either So if you have a vision of a snake in a rope, then the vision of the snake is not separate from the rope. It is the same thing. You're just making a confusion out of it. So even when we say that Prakriti is the cause of Jagat, we mean that as a possibility of how it is taken up by people. Could be taken as Prakriti, but it is really Brahman, is because Prakriti is nothing but Brahman. So it is a big difference between what the Sankhya is saying and what we are saying. That was number 4. The 5th one is kind of a technical one, and it's not very easy to understand until we spend more time on it. That by understanding Brahman is the Jagat Karanam, Eka Vijnanena Sarvam Vijnanam Bhavati. By just knowing that, really all other problems are solved. And so this is what Chandogya Upanishad talks about. You remember we saw that example where the student was sent to a teacher by his father, and he came back all proud and thinking that I know everything now. And his father said, "Did your teacher tell you about knowing which everything else is gone?" And the student was stunned. He knew that my understanding of the detail is not right. So he fell at the feet of the father finally. I accepted him as the ultimate authority and said, "Can you please teach it to me?" And so this point is also brought up. These are the 5 points that establish the main focus of the second sutra. Okay. So now going back a little bit, spending a few minutes on why this is important and what does it say to us. So here, one very useful thing that I ran across, which was really clarified things for me, was Swami Maheshananji saying that, we talk about the basic 3 aspects of Brahman as the Swarupa Lakshana, which is Satyam Jnanam Anantam or Satchidananda, right? So these are the three not portions of it, but 3 different aspects of it, Brahman. This is Swarupa Lakshana. He says, if you look at the entire creation, the entire life, the experiences of our life and so on, he says the Shastra points this out. It's not as though Swami Maheshananji came up on his own. He gives several instances where the Shastra is pointing it out. He's just summarizing it in a particular viewpoint. So what he's saying is that there are really 5 aspects of the entire creation. In a way, he's including both the Tatastha Lakshana as well as the Swarupa Lakshana. So there are 5 aspects, not just 3. The 3 are the Swarupa Lakshana, Satyam Jnanam Anantam, but there are 2 others. And the 2 others are Bandhanam and Moksha. Bandhanam means a sense of limitation, which gives rise to all of our problems in life. The fact that I am bound. I am bound because I am subject to become hungry. Binding number 1. Then I am subject to becoming thirsty. Binding number 2. I am subject to be unhappy. Binding number 3. I am subject to aging. Binding number 4. There are so many number of bindings that I am bound with. I am not free. The moment I just have some free time and I'm feeling good about myself, something happens. And my reverie and my meditation and so on is disturbed. Bound. we just we ignore it. We say, that's what life is and so on. Deep down below, we need to understand that we are it's part of the bandhanam. Bandhanam means ajnanam, which is the second part of it. But let's say bandhan. Let's just stick to the five portions. And the fifth one is moksha. Bandhanam and moksha. Moksha means complete freedom. Complete freedom. So these are the five aspects of life. So the three, which is Swarupa Lakshanam, and the fourth one is Bandhanam, and the fifth one is Moksha. This is how Ishvara's creation is. And we need to understand. The beautiful part of this creation is, it's a pretend creation. Pretend creation means that yes, there are so-called experiences of problems, dukkha, serious problems of dukkha, not just any problems of dukkha. But ultimately it is just jnanam, and with jnanam comes sukham. So it's a pretend creation, really speaking. So there are several ways of looking at this. This is why this is important. That Brahman is the Jagat Karana. And different acharyas have a different way of expressing it. Swami Dayanand Ji's very favorite expression on this was, you are the problem, you are the solution. He was very interesting in pointing out some, like for example, the very famous interpretation of Swamiji. It's not as though it's a brand new insight, but the way of expressing it was very interesting. For example, he would say, we don't have one God and many gods, we only have God. Beautiful. Similarly, he said, you are the problem, you are the solution. That means you do not blame anything else other than your own ignorance. This is exactly what we're saying, that bandhanam is due to the ignorance. And the ignorance goes. And it scares us and frightens us and troubles us. But ultimately it is kind of like a play where there's a lot of give and take, a lot of situational problems that come up. Ultimately it is just it all goes away. So to imagine the alternative, supposing Ishvara had thought that really the fun and games is temporary, but death and problems is permanent, imagine what a creation that would be. No. Ishvara's creation is that if there are some seeming problems, if there are some problems, there are seeming problems. This is also shown in our daily sports. And in the sports, what happens is that, yes, there are relative winners and losers. Somebody just fails to make even a bronze just by a split second. And so there is dukkha involved in that. Somebody has to win. Relatively, somebody wins. Relatively, somebody loses. And this is better done in a soccer match where, in fact, there's a lot of competition, a lot of spirited, passionate playing. But in the end, both the people, they all shake hands, they give each other big hugs. That just happened in the basketball where USA defeated France. And of course, there is some winners and losers, and there's, you know, people who are very happy and people who are temporarily unhappy. But it is really all just a game. In a soccer match, also, at the end, people shake hands, hug each other, and both have some beer and drinks at the same place, and they laugh all and say, and they are both making a lot of money. So it's just that they are not focusing on, you know, all these basketball players. Kevin Durant, he just signed, I think he's close to signing a 200 million 4-year contract, $50 million per year. Imagine that. Steph Curry just showed so much money they're making. So if they just focus on, and but yet they want to win some individual game. So this is exactly what it is. Ishvara's creation is that temporarily there may be some problems and so on, but if you focus on the reality, not focus on the unreality. There are problems when you focus on the unreality. But if you focus on the reality that you are, not some Ishvara's reality, but your own reality, there is joy. It's total joy. So these are the 5 factors. And those are Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Bandhanam and Moksha. This is how the whole creation is done. Very beautiful creation. So that fact is really pointed out subtly in the fact saying Brahman is the Jagat Karana. And so, in a way, you can say the Shakti of the Brahman, which is to project through ignorance, is the Jagat Karana. But there is a remedy for it. Swami Viditatmananda this is his very favorite way of saying. He says, don't blame anything. Don't blame the world as we usually do. You know, there's so much going on. There's fires and so on and so forth. And I don't know how I'm going to, you know, the life is going to be very difficult. There's viruses and there's lack of water. In California, we have a lot of problems. So he's saying, if these things can be solved, then I'll be happy. False. These things will never be solved. You need to already focus on your own reality, which is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. So anyway, that is the reason why the second sutra, Janmadhyasya Yataha, was pointed out by Swami Paramarthananda ji as being very important. Why? Because it clearly establishes you are the problem, you are the solution. Don't look for anything else. Look for removing your own ignorance. That is the deeper meaning of this particular sutta. So with that, we are officially concluding the second sutra and we go to the third one. Okay. Sutra number 3 says Shastra Yonitvat. Shastra Yonitvat. So in very simple meaning of this versa is that Brahman, because remember all these are pronouns to Brahman alone. So he says that Brahman is the yoni of the Shastra. Garbhasthanam. Garbhasthanam means the place from where the Shastra is born. The very cause of the Vedas, Shastra. So one thing that we can do here, the word Shastra, yeah, we may spend just a couple of minutes on the word Shastra. As in fact, let me defer that for a minute. So yeah, just me follow the outline that I got from Swami Paramarthananda's lectures on this. So let me just follow that. I think that will be good. So here, this particular sutra will be looked at in two different ways. You can even say it can be interpreted in two different ways. So when we say that, it makes us uncomfortable. It makes us uncomfortable whenever we say we can be interpreted. Here the scholars are saying that yes, it can be interpreted a couple of ways. That makes us very uncomfortable. Why? Because we feel, why doesn't the Shastra definitively tell me what the answer is? By the fact that you're saying there are two ways of looking at it, you are also not sure. This is what makes us uncomfortable. No, that's not the reason for it. In fact, this is embedded in the definition of a sutra. And so I don't have the full sutra in front of me, but let me recite what we should already know. The definition of sutra is alpaksharam asamdigdham saravat vishwato mukham. And then there's a couple of other ones, but these are the important ones. Alpaksharam means minimum number of words. There should be no duplication at all. It's very precise. It's a machine language. In the machine language, you can, it has to be very precise. The computer does not tolerate any ambiguity. So alpaksharam, asamdigdham means without any doubt. Again, alpaksharam and asamdigdham. Saravat means that it should have some relevance. It should not just be words that don't mean anything. Then the last one, which is important here, is called Vishwato Mukham. So Vishwato Mukham means having many faces, many applications. So that is the license for multiple interpretations. Like, for example, you can say that being unruffled by difficult situations. When somebody says something to you which might perhaps be a cause for some disquiet in your mind because it looks like an insult, then please hold your peace. Holding your peace in the face of some problems has multiple reasons. That doesn't mean that if this doesn't work, that should work. If that doesn't work, the first one should work. No. It has multiple meanings. One of them is it is good for you. If you, this happens to us all the time when I'm going here on Page Mill to 280, there is a 4-way stop sign right on the exit from 280 to Page Mill. And it is a riot because it's really a reflection on how different people are. Most of the people obey the laws. Laws are, they all observe who came first and who can go. There's some people who don't care about others. They come in, and even if they came in last, this happens all the time I see, they try to go first. Now, when that happens, this is a difficult situation. What should you do? You can either pick up a fight with them or you can let it go. The letting it go has two reasons. One is it is good for you. The second one is that forgive him. Because if you really pick up a fight with him, his day will be spoiled, your day will be spoiled. Why do that? It's okay. So this is called Vishwato Mukha, means it has more than one application. That's the reason for this sutra, which will be explained in more than one way, as we will do. That's the reason for it. Okay. So what we are going to do is, we'll follow in the third sutra the following methodology. One is a general analysis. The second word is a word analysis, and the third one is a conclusion. This is what we have been doing in the first two sutras, and we follow the same one. So, this sutra confirms the all-knowingness of Brahman. Confirms what is called omniscience of Brahman. Sarvagatvam. Sarvagatvam didhayati iti. This is the main reason for this sutra. And in case that looks like that's all that it is doing, no, because we made a very giant statement in the second sutra which says that it is the Jagat Karanam for everything. Here it confirms it by saying that it knows every aspect of Brahman, and Ishvara know every aspect of the whole creation, including the Vedas, including the Shastra. I'm trying to look for where he has talked about the Shastra. I'm still looking for it. Witness it. Yeah, he comes in as the word analysis, so I'll postpone it. I won't go to do that. So let me just continue on. So, it is now directly confirmed that Brahman is the direct cause of the Vedas, of the Shastra. So it is the Nimitta Karanam. It is the intelligence behind the entire Vedic Shastra. And Veda is really the body of all Vidya in the world. It has both Paravidya as well as Aparavidya. The other Vidyas are partial. Veda is complete. In fact, what we see of Vedas today is really, a lot of that is already lost. I think somewhere, Swami Paramarthananda says that in Samaveda, there were 1,000 shakhas of Samaveda at one time. Now only 2 are left. Swami Paramarthananda says that Adi Shankara in his commentary makes mention of many Shastric shlokas which we cannot find. So even in the last 1300, 1400 years since the birth of Adi Shankara, a lot of this has been lost. So, and even what is left here is also very comprehensive. And from Vedas, it doesn't mean just the Vedanta. But if you look at Shilpa Shastra, music, culture, Vyakaranam, etymology, all of aspects of it, this is all Vedas, Upavedas. This is an enormous There is really nothing that you need other than there's nothing that you need to create total happiness in your life. Dealings with the world, everything. This is Veda. All of that is apaurushaya. It is not made by human beings. It is paurushaya. And it is by Ishvara himself. And so this sutra says Shastra Yonitvat, means Brahma is the Garbhasthanam. It is where the entire wisdom of the Shastra is born from. So that means it confirms the Sarvagyatvam. So Sarvagyatvam Dridhayati, omniscience as a nimitta karanam of the entire Vedas. This is the main purpose of this particular sutra. So here one aspect of this that should be looked at, which is people can give an objection to this, and it can be argued, wait, did you say that the entire wisdom of the Vedas was created by Ishvara? So we say yes. Aha, we have a problem. What is the problem? The Vedas is also called by you, it's by you yourself and by others who believe in the Vedas to be anadi. Adi yasyana vidyate iti anadi, whose adi is not known, means which is beginningless. So there is a conflict here. You are saying it is created by Ishvara. That means at some point in time it was not there. So it conflicts with anadi. So either you cannot have it both ways. Either it's anadi or it was not created. This is the objection. So we say, when we say the word created, we don't mean it in its true sense creation. What we say is that it is manifested. It is always there, but the manifestation of the unmanifested state is called creation. Like, for instance, when you wake up in the morning, you have a lot of ideas about what you need to do today, your task list. Oh, today is Saturday, I have to do this, I have to pay my water bill, etc., etc. This is not a brand new creation because the seeds of this task list was already there. It was unfinished in the last day, and during the night it became unmanifested. So you cannot say, I had a great idea today. I think I better pay my water bill because otherwise I'll have a overage on it. Not a brand new idea. This is a continuous. So the entire creation of Ishvara is in the form of manifestation. So your objection, my dear, is not valid. We can say it was created, but we really say, even though it is anadi, because the knowledge and the Vedas and so on is the very nature of Ishvara. It's not apart from Ishvara. We're going to talk about this in the new Upanishad that we'll start today on Kaivalya Upanishad. That really the Upanishads were simply the manifestation of the truth in the minds of rishis. Because it's always there, but the ability to capture it and to express it depends upon your wisdom and your maturity. Very much like Swami Viditatmananda's excellent example, that if you look at all of the TV and the audio channels that are there in the ether right here, you go to any of the major towns like the Bay Area and so on, there are literally thousands of audio and video signals present all over, already there. But what you need to express it is to get the right TV and connect it to either cable or to satellite or something, internet, and express it. If you cannot express it, if you don't have the right equipment, then all of the unmanifested state of this electromagnetic waves will remain as they are, unexplored, as though you tell someone, you tell us, a youngster, do you know this whole, this is the, they say that all of the Pancha Mahabhutas, including Akasha and so on, they have one quality that they are characterized by. And the Akasha, the quality is sound. And so the sound is not in the Vayu. It is not in the Agni. It is not in Prithvi. It is not in water. It is in Akasha. Akasha is the one which holds the power. And I think I was telling you this, that this I used to have an issue a long time ago about how is sound the very guna of Akasha. And really slowly it took me a while to understand, and really what put the final touches in my mind was reading Einstein's biography. A beautiful book I read like about 15 years ago. And from there I could understand the power of Akasha. In fact, the whole magnetic forces, electromagnetic forces, magnetic forces, it's all contained in the Akasha. And so really speaking, the creation of Ishvara is the manifestation of Ishvara. So this is what is called Avyakrita Prapanchasya Vyakaranam. Excuse me a second. Avyakrita Prapanchasya Vyakaranam. That is the creation, nothing else. Avyakrita means one which is not Vyakrita, which is not manifested. Avyakrita. Prapanchasya, all of the plurality that you see, when it becomes manifested, this happens naturally in our in the day starting. This is something that I think just on the side I will just mention it to you. I think we have talked about it in the Purusha Suktam class that concluded some time ago, and in one of these days I'm planning that we are going to take Rudram as a text. But this is something that has taken me a while to really understand, and I'm not sure that let me just say this is the way to view it, which is that Ishvara's so-called creation, where there is no change in the nature of Ishvara, Even as through the Maya Shakti there is a so-called creation, very much like that to a rope. If you look at the rope as a snake, there is no change in the rope, it is not affected. You cannot say that, why did you frighten me? He says, what? I didn't frighten you. What are you talking about? He says, I thought you were a snake. He says, you were just looking at it that way. There's no change in me. So this way of the existence of Ishvara and the creation of Ishvara needs to be duplicated at the individual level. Exactly the same. So what I'm talking about is that we need to understand how this apparent creation takes place by the magician, which is Ishvara. And I need to understand that my creation is identical to that. My creation means the way I look at the world, my view of who I am and what my problems are and what needs to be done, all of that. It is identical to what the Ishvara has to be doing. And so if I can just understand how this, another way of looking at it is that if you have a magic and the magician can create the magic, but unless I understand how the magic is creation, I am bound by the magic. But once I understand how the magic is created, then I enjoy it. I was telling you this, that my second granddaughter during the last summer, was it this summer or the previous summer? Anyway, she was not going to school because of COVID and so on, and she was doing all kinds of learning from the internet. And so she learned some really new card tricks. So one day she was telling my wife and I, she says, well, let me show you a trick. And she really did some phenomenal tricks. I still don't understand how she did it. And we were just stumped. We said, wow, Sienna, this is just beautiful. And poor thing immediately said, shall I show you exactly how I did it? And my wife was about to say yes, and I said, no. Sienna, I want to be under the spell of your magic for a while, because I knew that once she told me exactly what to do, the whole magic will just fall on the earth. It won't have any magic for me. I didn't want that to happen. So I said to Sienna, don't tell me that. So she was happy with it. Okay, I'll keep the secrets to myself. So here in our life, I think what we need to do is to understand how Ishvara wields the magic. Because in the case of this card trick, it is all just fun and games. There's no problems. But in the case of the so-called real life, if you may call it real life, there are a lot of problems because I don't understand the magic. And so I do need to know how the magic is done. And we need to understand exactly how Ishvara wields this magic, because I do the same way. I just don't get it, that's all. I don't understand it. So once I understand, so this is the reason for the 5-1. So there is bandhanam and there is moksha. Once I understand how the magic is done, the laughter is permanent. It's called moksha. So anyway, this is the talking about the creation aspect of it. Okay. So now So now we can say that so we can conclude therefore that Ishvara is the cause of all knowledge, and yeah, that's one thing to look at. So this is the this is this is the Vyapti. This is the Vyapti. The Vyapti means this is how the logical conclusion is, that whoever is the karta, the doer of something, is also possessed of the knowledge of doing it. Yo yo karta saha gyaha. Like, for example, if you see a person making a pottery, the skill of making the pottery, the making of the pottery is preceded by the knowledge of the pottery. It is not an accident when you have a beautifully looking vase, and that vase was created by someone on how to do it. And so this is, as we were saying earlier, the sutra number 3, sarvagyatvam dridhayati. It establishes it confirms the fact that as a Jagat Karta, it is as the Jagat Karanam. Jagat Karanam means Jagat Karta, which is the doer. Nothing else is responsible for the creation of this whole Jagat. And because it knows how to do it, so there's no shocking aspect. My God, I think Ishvara forgot to do it this way. No, Ishvara cannot say, oops, I didn't think of it, my gosh. Everything is according to plan. And really this is an important thing, because if we know this plan, even some of the problems that we are having, and even on the problems that seem like, who's responsible for it? Like this whole coronavirus and the Delta variant and the fires and so on and so forth. Somehow our feeling is that the God doesn't know what he's doing. No, he knows what's happening. And it is really because of some of the excesses of the human efforts that created a mess for ourselves. And so we need to be given the results of it. It is very much like if you go to a doctor with a medical problem, and then the doctor says, have you been eating a lot of sweets? Supposing you have a diabetic episode and you need, so then the doctor can ask you, then you say, yes, I have been rather negligent. The doctor says, okay, all right, I understand, but here's what you need to do. You need to take the following things, and you cannot eat sweets anymore. In fact, cut down on carbohydrates. and do all of this. So this is kind of like a punishment, the discipline. So similarly here also, we've had some excesses in the way, the way we disregard the nature. And so it has to go. What can you do? Something has to take place. And so really the Ishvara is the Sarvajna. It is not as though it is an accident. It's not something he forgot. It's no oops or anything like that. This is exactly how it is supposed to be. So this is another aspect of this verse. Sarvagyatvam didhayati. Okay. So this is the general introduction to this verse. Now let's look into the second aspect of that, which is a word analysis. So this is how we've been doing. Number one is the general introduction. Second word is the specific word analysis. The third one is the conclusion. So the word analysis here is pretty simple. Why? Because there is only, there are two words. So one is Shastra and the other one is Yoni. Okay? So the word Shastra, this is what I was postponing, so let's go into that now. Let's look at the word Shastra. So what does the word Shastra means? So it says, Shasanat trayate iti Shastra. Shasanat trayate iti Shastra. Shasanat means the one that establishes what needs to be done. It teaches and commands. Teaches and commands. So the commanding aspect of it means don't doubt it. This is the way it should be done. And so both the teaching aspect and the commanding aspect are included in the word Shastra. And Trayate means it protects you. That if you follow, it's like, getting lost somewhere. So if you follow the guidebook, then you will be protected. Don't go into asking the local people here and there, because they may not know. They might willfully give you some. This is the guidebook. Don't take a left there, go straight. And so this is the Shastra. Shastra means that by teaching and by commanding, it protects you. This is called Shasanat Trayate iti Shastra. And both the teaching and the commanding aspect of that are included in the Shastra. So the commanding aspect comes first and the teaching aspect comes later, even though the two are mixed up together. The commanding aspect comes in the Karma Kanda and Upasana Kanda. So this has to do with sadhana. So sadhana means that you have to prepare yourself through a life of discipline, and also understanding that there is one Ishvara. There is something definite going on that I need to understand. And so rerouting all of your karmas in the form of Ishvara Bhakti through Upasana is the commanding aspect of it. It is exactly like if you need to understand a very subtle subject matter, then you have to prepare yourself. Otherwise, you cannot understand. You have to go to Berkeley or Stanford and just systematically learn. And without that, you cannot understand E is equal to mc squared. And so this is the commanding aspect of it. And once you are there, your qualifications are there, then the teaching aspect comes in. Very much like the learning of swimming, that you have to understand how to swim, you have to get into the water, do all of that. And if you keep doing it, you have now the knowledge of swimming. And if you look at some of these youngsters, they do not even, they don't feel like they're swimming, they're just enjoying. So this is what moksha is all about. This is what jnanam is all about. So the karma, upasana and jnanam are all included in the word shastra. And the word yoni means the nimitta karana, the author. So the meaning of this sutra is because Brahman is the author of Shastra. Shastra here means the entire set of vidya which is needed to lead a successful life is called Shastra. And so that means that it comes from Ishvara. We should have that Shraddha. It is not man-made, which can have some defects depending on the defects of the human beings. It is not pure logic, not tarka. It is really the Shruti. Shruti and Shastra is the same. And the author of that is nothing but Brahman, Ishvara. So now the word analysis is complete. It's a very simple one. It's not a very complicated one. And so this is done. Now, I think I have 3 or 4 more minutes. So let me quickly go over the here. So, as we studied before, there are 5 things that each adhikarana must have. One is called Vishaya, subject matter. The second one is Vishaya, which is doubt. The third one is Purva-paksha, which somebody says this is the way it should be, not the way you are doing it. Fourth one is Siddhanta, which means that no, we know what we are doing. We don't, your objection is not valid. And the fourth one is Sangati. So this has all been presented before. So Vishaya, Purva-paksha, Siddhanta and Sangati. So in the next few minutes, let's just go through that just to make progress. So Vishaya is Brahma is the creator of all knowledge, knower of all, and therefore the creator of it. Jagat Karta, Jagat Gyaha. This is the Vishaya. Doubt is Brahma Vedasya Karta Nava. Is Brahman the creator of Vedas or not? Purva-paksha is na. Vedasya anaditvat nityatvat. And so the Veda is anadi and it cannot be created. This is the Purva-paksha. Siddhanta is, we have done this, I'm just summarizing it. Even though Veda is anadi, but because of the manifestation, it can be called as a creation, so it is okay. We are not doing something which is wrong. It is in fact the creator of all of them. Sangatihi, last one, is called Akshepa Sangatihi. And so answers an objection based on the previous topic. And the objection on the previous topic is, how can Brahma be the Karana of everything? Shouldn't we really have other things like pradhana and paramanus, etc., that are the cause of it. Here it establishes that really it is the sarvakaranam, sarvagyaha, so confirmation, reinforcement of the second sutra, and therefore the sangatihi, the connection of this sutra from the previous sutra. See, because all the sutras have to have some reason why they are given. We must understand it. So again, same thing. Asam digdham saravat vishwato mukham alpaksharam. So the sangati has to be there. And the sangati here is sarvagyatvam dridhayati. It establishes and confirms that Brahman is in fact the Jagat Karanam and the knower of the Jagat. So with that, the word analysis and the conclusion is done, and we will go into some of the specific bhashya words next time, okay, of the third sutra. Om Rahu Grasta Divankarendu Sadrisho Maya Samachadana Sanmatra Karanopasamharnato Yo Bhut Shushuptaf Puman Ragaswap Samiti Prabodha Samaye Yav Pratyabhigyayate Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Vishwam Balyadishu api jagradadishu tatha sarva swavastha swapi vyavritta svanuvartamana mahamityantas purantam sada swatmanam prakati karoti bhajatam yo mudraya bhadraya tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Vishwam pashyati karyakarnataya swaswami sambandhataha shishyacharya tathaiva pitra putradhyatmana bhedataha swapne jagrati vaya esha purusho maya paribhramitaha tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Bhurambhamsya nalo nilo ambaramaharnartho himamshuh puman ityabhati characharatmakamidam yasyaiva murtyashtakam nanyat kinchana vidyate vimrishatam yasmat parasmat vibhoho tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Sarvatmatvamiti sputikritamidam yasmadamushminstave tenasya shravanat tadartamananat dhyanat cha sankirtanat sarvatmatvamaha vibhuti sahitam syadishwaratvam satvataha siddhyetat punarashtradha parinatam chaishwaryam avyahatam Ashubhani nirachaste tanoti shubhasantatim smriti matrena yat pumsam brahmatan mangalam param atikalyana rupatvat nitya kalyana samshrayat smartranam varadatvat cha brahmatan mangalam viduhu omkaraschatha shabdascha dvavetau brahmanah pura kantham bhitva viniryatau tasman mangilakau vabhau omatha Omata Asato ma satkamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Mrityor mam mritam gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. So good to have you all here. Wonderful. Akshay and Shobha, you're back in the East Coast already. You must be busy listening to Swami Tattvavidananda ji's classes also. It's good. Kirsten, your book was mailed a couple of days ago, so you should be able to get it in the next. It'll probably take about 2 weeks to get to Italy. So, but anyway, that was all done. So nice to see you all here. Wonderful. Looking to see if you had any questions. I don't see anything. So with that, I take your leave and hopefully we'll see you next week. Om.